is the guy who hacked Yahoo, AOL, Time Warner, MCI, WorldCom, Microsoft, and very famously the New York Times. And that's just a few of his acts. Today he's going to talk about hacking for fun and not necessarily profits, but certainly notoriety. Adrian Lamo, one of the most celebrated hackers in the world today. Welcome to the Screensaver. It's good to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
How come you don't have some like deep dark hacker name, like, you know, super cyber freaker guy?
Just one of those things that never really occurred to me back in the day I toyed with the idea of using one, but I figured if I'm me, I might as well go on as me.
We call you the homeless hacker because you don't have a residence that you live in all the time. You move around from friend's house to house. Is that how you do it? Or?
I sort of have a long-term tendency to move around. I've been a little bit more stable lately, but I wouldn't say I'm slowing down.
Are you on the run, or is it just you just don't want to stay in the same?
I wouldn't say I'm on the run from anything more than maybe a few library fines, but it really just started out with me traveling, visiting friends, and I somehow never got around to stopping.
Where do you consider your home?
I've always had an attachment to San Francisco.
Good. Well, we're glad to have you here.
I'm glad to have San Francisco.
Now, when I say hacker, do you define yourself as a hacker? Do you consider yourself a hacker?
It's not a term that I try to sell myself as.
Yeah.
People use hacker to mean a lot of different things, and I really just do what I do. It's not limited to computers, so I really don't know if it's hacking, but it's not a term that I object to either.
From what I've read of your exploits, and I don't have any direct information, but from what I've read, it sounds like you are particularly adept at getting into systems. Like you just have that kind of this way of getting into systems. Is that would that be accurate?
I wouldn't say that I'm a technological whiz of any sort, but I have lots of leaps of intuition when it comes to seeing things that speak to me, that leap out at me, that I really need to follow up on. It's really, I think attention deficit serves me well in that I jump from one thing to another, and it frequently ends up being the right thing.
Were you always like this? I mean, as a kid, did you do this kind of thing? Or?
As a kid, in like the 5th grade, I would sift through teachers' garbage cans to see when the fire drills were coming up and when pop quizzes were, that sort of thing. So I've always done the same sort of thing, just in different environments, and I like to think that I do the same thing even if I didn't have computers, because I think it scales beyond computers.
Well, not all your hacks were at the keyboard. In fact, you went back to garbage cans for your most recent hack on Singular, right? The wireless company.
That is correct. So, accidentally on purpose.
What happened?
Well, I was at a pet zone in Sacramento, and they were in the process of closing, and they weren't terribly nice about it, so we decided, well, might as well check out their dumpsters.
See what you can find.
As long as we had to leave, why not? And they were next door to a Singular field shop type thing, which I didn't know about. And I opened up the first dumpster that I saw, and the very first thing that I saw lying at the top was customer information.
Oh, no.
And, well, this isn't good. The page had everything. I think you would really need to identify yourself as their account. It didn't have, like, the last 4 of their social or anything like that. But it had the ESN, the numeric identifier of their cell phone, as well as all of their name and address info. And more importantly, it had a URL, which, when I researched further, turned out to allow me access to 2.5 million Singular customer information records.
Now, you went to Wired Magazine. Did you go to Singular before you went to Wired Magazine?
I went to Singular by way of Wired, because I tend to find that companies just respond a whole lot better when it's a media entity and not a consumer that's calling them.
What are you going to do? Call up, say, hey, I'm Adrian Lamo, and I just found this stuff, and they're not going to know what to do with you.
Yeah, it's really, call centers and customer service are there to insulate companies from people who call up and actually want to talk to someone who matters. People that matter don't want to talk to customers largely.
Right. What was Singular's reaction when Wired printed this story?
Singular's reaction on the record was it was mature of them, as companies go, in that they admitted responsibility, they admitted they had fouled up, and they said, yep, sure shouldn't have done that, we'll try to do it better next time. But I was made to understand that some of the first people that were contacted were extremely, extremely unhappy about what had happened, but
that's a normal reaction. A company's going to say,
yeah.
And then if they're smart, as you say, they
compose
right
themselves.
Thing.
But
yeah.
And that's really what matters, what they ended up doing, rather than what they felt first thing.
Do you consider yourself on a mission to get these companies to realize that they have poor security practices? Is that part of what you're doing?
I don't consider it my responsibility to reform security in the world as we know it. I think, if anything, I'm on a mission to be in the right place at the right time.
You're just doing it because you like it.
I do it because it's what I do and what comes naturally to me. Yeah. In any environment that I'm in, I notice things and I follow up on them. Same as pulling on unmarked doors, or seeing what the weird gadget is that's been installed on a box on the corner by the telephone company or whatever.
It's curiosity?
It's curiosity, and it's really just desire to be in the right place at the right time, thinking that I'm there for a reason and that things are there for a reason and that I should follow up on them while I'm there.
Some of the things you do may kind of be illegal, yeah?
Many of them are probably illegal, most likely not all of them, and some of them are, in fact, on an edge of legality that hasn't been fully explored.
Right, the gray area. I mean, we're hacking an Xbox. That's probably right in the gray area as well.
I do recognize that many of them are crimes, and I recognize that there is the possibility of consequences. I've never tried to say that what I do is better because of the way that I do it or that it's less illegal. It's just how I do it. And
Don't you worry about that, though? That somebody's going to come along and put you in handcuffs?
It's something that I think about. It's something that I thought about a lot when I found out that I was being investigated by the Department of Justice.
That was a year ago, yeah.
Almost exactly a year ago, yes. But really, I don't think that it's one of those things where consequences can be a deterrent because it's my nature. It's what comes naturally to me, and I think it's what comes naturally to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I just figured that while I'm doing it, I should do it in a way that sets precedent so that those that come after me as well. Actually, that sounds a little bit too grandiose, those that come after me. Anyone who ends up doing something similar to what I do might be in a situation where they can contact a company and the company can say, this is where things happened before, and maybe we don't have to put him in jail and things will be okay anyways.
Do you have a personal ethic, do no harm? I mean, is there something that you won't go, a line you won't cross?
There's no, Adrian Lamo code of ethics that I consider myself to be totally guided by. I just try to do things the way I would like them done to me. That's, I think, really all anyone can do.
It's a pretty good code of ethics. I think I've heard that before, once or twice.
A few times.
So when you hack, are you careful not to damage people, not to...
I've never knowingly done damage to a system, and there are lines that I have in my head that I don't cross. Like, at MCI, there were some things that were okay, but I didn't want to say mess with their long-distance systems just because people depend on that, and I know that I don't know enough about the way those things work to be sure that I wouldn't do any damage poking around them.
But ultimately, what you're doing because you enjoy it. This is something you like to do.
I do it because it's what I feel I should do, yes.
You should do why?
Because it comes naturally to me.
It's what you're made to do?
That phrase has been used before. It's an impulse, and it's something that I really don't think that I could stop doing if I tried. Even in a prison cell, I would find ways to find discrepancies and anomalies in the system, whatever it is that the system may be there.
Well, we wish you luck. I hope you don't end up in a prison cell.
If I do, I'm sure I'll make an experience out of it.
We'll have you back. Thank you so much for joining me. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Adrian Lamo. Where will you be sleeping tonight, do you know?
That's still open to question.
I have a couch if you want to borrow it. You're welcome to come by. To read more about Adrian's adventures in network exploitation, visit our website at thescreensavers.com.